Okay, so today we'll continue with environment, right? So, some topics what we try to have revision today as part of revising current affairs for prelims. So corals, so some news about Antarctica, Glacier Lake, biomass. Okay, so apart from that, Wildlife Protection Act, which is important. So many amendments have been done. Remember, there are amendments which were done to Forest Act, Wildlife Protection Act, as well as Forest Conservation Act. Okay. So try to read about the definition of forest, what is forest, and what is forest as per Forest Conservation Act, which is now amended. And Supreme Court has ordered that we need to follow the erstwhile definition as of now till the case is decided. So you should not take the definition of what forest is all about under Forest Conservation Act. But whatever it is, definition of forest is important. Okay. So definition of forest, definition of green hydrogen. Okay. All these have been defined now. So try to have a note on these simple definitions. Okay. So there can be questions also. Anyway, so first we'll check out with corals. So what are corals? In case if we ask, what are corals?
A marine organism which exists in symbiotic relationship with zooxanthella and
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then simply what are corals in case if the question is how you can answer.
So the invertebrates living in sea.
Invertebrates living in sea. Okay. So invertebrates mean?
No spines.
Okay, they will not have spine. So they are marine invertebrates. Okay. So they live in colonies, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they live in colonies. So what are polyps? What are polyps?
So like the calcium carbonate, like the outer layer that it made, that is polyps.
Is it?
It is made of the calcium carbonate.
Okay. So what are polyps then? Anybody? Is that the outer layer what you have? Is it called as polyps? So what are polyps?
Sir, I'm confused between like that, like whether it is a soft or it is a
No,
like little.
that is different. But what are coral polyps? These are actually polyps are actually they are living organisms. They are small, little, tiny animals which live in corals. Okay, so they will be attached or growing within the part of what you call corals. Okay, polyps. So these polyps are the one which generates what do you call that? Small tentacles will be there, the zooxanthellae will be there, captured and so on. Okay, polyps. When these polyps, which supply nutrients, if these polyps are the tiny amounts of the polyps are blocked by the turbidity in the water, the polyps die. Naturally, the coral also dies. Okay. So, what are the types of corals you have? What types of corals we have?
So we have like hard corals and soft corals. Hard
Okay.
corals are the ones which form reefs, while the soft ones.
Atolls.
Atolls are formations, right? But I'm asking about coral types. Hard,
So
soft, okay.
Yes, sir. We also have zooxanthelle and
Ah, okay.
azooxanthelle. Like the
Okay.
azooxanthelle are the ones which do not have the symbiotic relationship.
Okay. Then,
Some are also found in cold water and some are found in the
Hmm.
tropical regions. So that's
okay.
another
So
classification.
so we have different types of corals generally. Okay. See, remember, when they ask for classification, you have hard corals, soft corals, okay, dark corals which live in deep seas, and so on. There are different types of corals under hard, soft, or dark, according to their colors, according to their shapes. Okay. So likewise, fine. So brain shaped coral. So that is one type of soft coral. Okay. So there are different categories of corals and different types of corals accordingly how we classify. Okay. So in this, what are all the regions corals are largely found? What are the regions corals are largely found?
So in tropical region and like near the source, like it's not like very far, like because
it
it need
is
a base.
tropical water, you have large amount of corals. Okay. So equator to tropical, you have more amount of corals. You have it corals in the temperate region also. Okay. So cooler temperate region because we have cold corals, which we call it as deep corals. Okay. Deep corals or cold corals, which live in very colder conditions. There are even dark corals which are found in very high depth where even sunlight doesn't have penetration. So that we call it as dark corals. Okay. So dark corals will not have symbiotic relation because it will be not possible for those organisms to have symbiosis. So only these coral, that soft type of coral will be there. Okay. So remember hard, soft, and dark corals. Okay. And apart from that, why corals are in news now? We have discovered a large areas of corals in which region as of now this year, that is in last year 2023, back end of
Um,
2023.
Sir, near America, like
America,
not,
right?
yeah,
So
Antarctica.
northeastern part of America. So we had in the eastern coast we have such a huge amount of coral reefs which are discovered. That is pristine coral reefs. Okay, for the first time they have discovered the deep coral reefs. Okay, that is also one of the reasons. Apart from that, we have this coral reef breakthrough, an international event. So we'll see in the international affairs also. But this is the area. This is also one of the reasons why corals were in news. Okay. So remember, dark corals are those which found in 6,000 meters down. Okay, 6 kilometers down. That's a very huge depth. Okay. So what is the general criteria for having corals? A good amount of corals. At what temperature you have optimum growth of corals?
27,
So
26.
27 to 28.
23 to 27. Okay, maximum. So it can withstand up to 40 for a very short span, but in case of sustaining, it will die. Okay, that happened in Australia and all. Clear? Okay. So there can be mix of dark and soft. So it can be possible in various aspects. Okay. So whether corals can be there in freshwater?
No, sir.
So you need salinity. Okay. So they will live in salinity waters. It can be a mix of waters. Say, for example, mangrove forest. It's a mix of fresh and saline water, but anyway, salinity should be there. For that, it has to survive. Okay. So they are nicknamed as rainforest of the ocean and one of the greatest suppliers of food as well as livelihood, biodiversity, everything, and part of nature. Okay, so remember that. So you have, you know, what all the various threats we have and other aspects. You may understand that. And some terms like coral bleaching, okay, algae bloom, this one that is red tide, okay, red tide. So these are terms which you can relate to that. Okay. So red tide algae bloom, red color algae which is coming on because of nutrient. So that will result in biomass, bio availability of oxygen. That will result in indirectly the impact of marine diversity later, because that river when joins these ocean, so that will have create a local instability of those coastlines. So anyway, so all these are interlinked, remember. And similarly, there are natural threats also, and there are human-based threats also, anthropogenic threat also. But generally, when temperature increases, sudden death will happen, and it cannot be even recovered back. That's one of the greatest problems of corals. And corals have evolved a very long period of time. So it's years together. So they have been for very long period of time, lakhs of years. We have this evolution. Okay. So remember about corals. So you have a good amount of information in your basic books also. So corals are in use for a long period of time. So recently it was not much asked in the recent past. So try to have some information about it. Okay. Now, Antarctica. So Antarctica was in news because of new ozone hole. Remember that the old ozone hole, for that we had steps taken. What is the most important step which we have taken for related to ozone hole?
Montreal Protocol.
Montreal Protocol. Okay. So supplement to Montreal Protocol. Supplement to Montreal.
Kiwadi or Kiladi, something like
Kigali Agreement. So Montreal Protocol is very important because this is the first important protocol across the globe which has been successfully implemented by all countries or member countries. And even with respect to India, India has surpassed Montreal Protocol, what do you call the targets? Okay, so remember Montreal Protocol targets, they can ask the targets again. So you may feel that the targets are older, but Montreal Protocol targets are important. Okay. So because India has surpassed the targets, okay, so that is important. Remember that. And apart from that, you need to know about ozone hole. So remember, ozone hole is not the only anthropogenic reason. There are natural phenomena also. Okay, ozone hole is a natural phenomena. It is triggered by natural means also, but sometimes it can be triggered by anthropogenic factors. So what are the anthropogenic factors which can trigger ozone hole?
the carbon, fluorocarbon.
So hydrofluorocarbons, right? So release of carbons. Okay.
Hydrocarbon.
So that is a basic thing which is because those long-lived gas molecules, they will sustain in these atmosphere, which triggers this particular process. Okay. So ozone hole is nothing but the concentration. Okay. So this particular concentration is nothing but Dobson unit. Remember, Dobson unit is the one which we measure ozone hole. Okay. So concentration. So this is one important aspect what it is, right? And similarly, ozone is nothing but 3 atoms of oxygen, which is actually 0.001% of the Earth availability. Okay, ozone. So ozone can be formed in which areas? One is stratosphere. Another one,
Troposphere.
troposphere. Where in troposphere? We call that as
Tropopause.
the region where you have ozone. Only in troposphere and all you need to have ozone. See, ozone can be formed around you. So we call it as
Oh yeah, ground.
Ground level ozone. Ground level ozone is a pollutant. Okay. Ground level ozone is a pollutant. Whereas ozone in a stratosphere, whether you call it as a pollutant?
No, sir.
No, remember that. Okay. So ozone, ground level ozone is a pollutant. Whereas ozone in the stratosphere or upper troposphere is not a pollutant. Remember. Okay. So you need to be very clear when the question is being asked. Okay. Vehicular emission in those aspects or industrial emission or formation of ground level ozone because of suspended particles, then it is what do you call the pollutant. Okay, fine. So functions of ozone, I think you may know. So what are the other functions of ozone apart from protecting UV layer? Industrial use of ozone. What are industrial use of ozone?
Sanitation.
Okay. So we call it as decontamination. Okay. So we call it as decontamination, where we treat water, especially water. Okay. Predominantly we have ozonized water. You have seen, right? Ozonization, ozonized water. Okay. So sometimes food, water, we even have some equipments, gadgets, which is used in hospitals. So certain things we treat UV, and also we have ozone. Ozone usually did after UV. So what you actually do in ozonization? So what is the main important component why you do? Say even in your bubble water bottles, you can see UV treated, ozonized, right? UV itself will kill all radiation, I mean harmful organisms. But why you do ozonization? What is the purpose behind it? Why you do that?
So
Control
not sure.
the hazardous waste.
Okay, hazardous waste is removed. Okay, then.
So maybe due to the like UV rays, like oxygen and all gets break down and like radicals and all has formed. So for that reason.
Okay. See, one is this medical reason, other one is to remove the odor, bad odor in water, right? So some foul smells. So you can get rid of them using ozone also. Okay, that is also one of the reason why we use ozonization, right? Okay. So find out some industrial applications of ozone. So apart from that, this thing they may ask you anthropogenic cause apart from climate change. You can see volcanic eruptions. Okay. So apart from that, wildfires. So these can also trigger ozone, right? Ozone, and that is ozone hole. So remember that, especially wildfire. Okay. So you may not immediately strike wildfire that whether it is going to be there or not. Okay. So wildfire is one of the important aspect what you need to remember. Okay, fine. And similarly, protocol, especially you need to know Montreal Protocol, which is very, very important. And it will be definitely asked. Okay, Montreal Protocol, its targets. Okay, what it actually did, Montreal Protocol, and what is Kigali Agreement all about. Okay, fine. Now, in same Antarctica, we have ice sheets, which they say no matter you cut down the emissions, the ice sheets melting in Antarctica cannot be reversed. So that is the thing what they have identified. Okay. So first you need to understand certain terminologies. Say you have sea ice. Okay, you have iceberg, you have ice shelf, ice sheet. Okay, so what are they? What is the difference between these four? Ice sheet, ice shelf, iceberg, and sea ice.
Oh. For iceberg, means like more air is there, and like ice sheet, something like frozen, like ground, like more dense
Okay.
kind of thing.
See, remember this picture. So ice sheets are those which are large mass of glacier, right? So which will be permanently covering a very large region. Okay, that is ice sheet. And this ice sheet, say you see your shelves, right, in your homes. So it will be projecting outside. Same way, the ice sheets, when it projects in the sea, we call it as ice shelf. Okay, shelf is something projecting out. Clear? Sunshade like. And when this ice shelf breaks down into large bodies of ice, then we call it as iceberg, which will be floating across the sea, right? Ocean. 1/3 will be on the showing, whereas the large amount of thing will be immersed. So that we call it as iceberg, right? And these IC is not generated by iceberg, but IC is something which is small blocks of ice which floats across the sea because of seawater getting frozen up because of iceberg, nearby iceberg or ice sheet likewise. Okay, so that we call it as sea ice. Remember? Okay, so this is the four important terminologies which are there. Fine. So here, why this Antarctica ice sheets are melting? It is because of the ocean waves, that is warm ocean waves which appear in this particular region. Okay, so this warm ocean waves are there which are brought from various areas where the basic temperature level which has already risen. So that particular rising warm water, so that causes the problem. Okay, so this is what they actually indicated, but they will ask you these four differences. Okay, so definitely people will be confused between iceberg and ice shelf, or ice sheet and sea ice. Okay,
Sir, can you repeat once more about like sea ice, sir, like whether
sea ice is, say, usually you have a large iceberg in floating in the water. So naturally the temperature of that seawater will come down. So there will be some blocks of uh, water which converts, freezes, right? So
Okay,
that
sir.
will form some part of ice. Okay, that we call it as sea ice. Clear?
Okay.
They are free floating only, small blocks, small blocks will be there, tiny blocks. Right? Okay. So Antarctica is important because Antarctica, already we have Antarctica with respect to our expedition that was also in news. Apart from that, Antarctica is also in news for these two aspects. Okay. Fine. Now, the fourth one, you need to remember the Glacier Lake outburst, which happened in Sikkim. Okay. So what is Glacier Lake? What is Glacier Lake? A lake which is formed by the lakes which are formed by the movement of glaciers, right? So, say for example, because of the small movement of glaciers and the erosional features which resulted in the landforms which are formed by glaciers. So we have different forms of glaciers or types of glaciers, landforms, right? So you can see when glacier melts and moves into a large ice mass. So you have moraines. So what are moraines? Moraines are one of the dangerous moving mass. Why? Because it is a combination of many things. It is a combination of ice, sand, pebble, dust, debris, everything. Okay. So this particular moraines sometimes may be accumulated in a particular region. We call it as a lake. Okay. Because of natural hurdles, so natural dam-like feature, some reservoir will be formed. Okay. With what? Because of these glacial moraine. So when this moraine, which has ice, and this ice melts down, so you start having large amount of water accumulated. So already these are mix of sand, pebbles, and debris. So they may be loosely packed. So ultimately, when rains are there, or when avalanche is there, or when sudden cloudburst is there, automatically the already water mass what we have with the moraine and the incoming mass that may result in a great outburst. Okay. So similarly, we had this particular outburst in the South Lonak Lake in Sikkim, okay, which is around 17,000 feet high. And you know that it is because of the continuous rainfall, this particular glacier lake was flooded and it broke and it caused flooding in various areas, especially Teesta Dam and its hydro project. Everything was washed away by this particular glacial outburst. Okay. So they can ask you about avalanche, they can ask you about moraine, they can ask you simply about the landforms of glacier. Okay. So that can also be asked. You need to check your NCRT in geography where you have the landforms of glacier, especially the glacier when it melts. So what are all the basic landforms which happens? Clear? So that you try to look into, and also look into the map of Teesta River. So what is River Teesta, from where it starts, what happens, what are its tributaries basically, where it drains into. So all these aspects you can check out. Okay. But the main idea, the idea is what it is and how glacial lakes are there. Apart from that, try to learn about the institutions, the avalanche study institutions. Okay. So with respect to avalanche, or with respect to what do you call the Himalayan studies. So all these aspects you try to have some idea. Okay. So that can also be asked in this particular aspect. Okay. So why Himalayan regions are famous for these? Why cloudburst is happening? So they can ask about cloudburst also. What is the difference between cloudburst and lake burst? So what are the differences in these? So they can ask it. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Then biomass. What is biomass? We have seen already. What is biomass?
Is an energy source.
Okay. And
Uh,
something else.
That materials can be used, plant and material can be
Okay.
used.
So in case if you define it, how you put it? Biomass.
The materials of the plants and animals,
Hmm.
we can use it as a fuel to produce electricity.
Okay. So these are basically the sourced from living organisms, right? It can be of a plant or animal. Okay. So an energy sourced from what do you call living organisms? So that we call it as biomass, right? So it can be of any aspect derived from living organisms. So it can be agriculture residue or algae residue. So anything which has some biological source. So this particular biomass can act as a fuel input, right? So they can be used as alternative for coal, or at least and substitute for coal for a limited way. Say, for example, like how ethanol is blended with petrol. Okay, same way you can have biomass acting as an input along with coal, right? So that's a basic thing what we have. So what they do, they will get the biomass, they will get the pure biomass into pellets, small pellets, and then they will be mixing it with coal for burning. So this is what they are going to use. Okay, this is what you call it as biomass co-firing. Okay, what is co-firing? Anything which is done along with something, we call it as co-firing. Okay. So how this particular biomass reduce the greenhouse emission? When you co-fire with biomass, how it, co-fire biomass with coal, how it reduces?
The carbon emission will not be there.
So the amount of coal is used is reduced, right? Say, for example, if I'm using 100 kg of coal, now I may use only 80 kg coal, right? So that 20 kg coal usage is reduced. So ultimately what happens, this particular coal usage or that emission of coal, emissions from that 20 kg coal is reduced. Okay, that's the idea how I'm reducing this particular, emissions, right? So that's the idea. So progressively, when it is better, we try to convert that ratio. So we may increase the ratio so that the coal will be reduced and bio mass will be there. Whether biomass does not emit greenhouse gases, can you say that?
No, sir, it doesn't.
Damage methane.
Definitely, biomass will have emissions, no doubt about it. Okay, because minimum, you have carbon dioxide, right? Minimum. But the thing is that you don't have any other serious, gases like sulfur, nitrogen, likewise. So that type of things will not be there. Okay, so it will be carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. So those type of things will be there. Clear? Okay. So these are some aspects what it can be, and other methane can be there. So industrial emission, that type of greenhouse can be reduced. So that's the idea. And when you improvise the input, that is when you improvise the biomass, then naturally the improvisation of the reduction in the emission will be better. Okay, because when it is not having some impurities, kind of, especially that chemical impurities and all, so it can be even more better when we have a burning. But anyway, it is going to be polluting only, but not as polluting as you have coal, right? That's the idea. Fine. In other important thing is that this is a controlled fire, right? Say, for example, when you burn the biomass openly, what will happen? When you burn the biomass openly, what will happen? It will directly affect your environment. Okay. Whereas here, what we can do, these biomass, which are used in co-firing, so definitely what happens, this will be cleansed and only pure form of biomass is going to be used, and the flue gas can be treated. Okay, flue gas can be treated and then let into the atmosphere. So this is possible, but when you just burn it in the fields, what will happen? Everything will be going into the atmosphere. So that is the reason why biomass co-firing is significant, even though it releases some what do you call that emissions, right? So that's the idea. Okay, so policy intervention, you can see list of policies what we have. So biomass co-firing, especially when we had this particular issue of stubble burning and all. So we started having this biomass co-firing, one of the most important thing. Remember, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy had biomass co-firing as a renewable energy as a source, whereas a policy is done by Ministry of Power. Okay, so who had given this particular policy? Biomass co-firing, Ministry of Power. Remember that. Okay, they will simply say it is Ministry of Renewable Energy. It is not. It is Ministry of Power. Okay, and same way we have various other policies which are there, and you can also see the prices are also fixed for biomass pellets and so on. Okay, so especially under Smart mission, we are using this particular biomass co-firing. So we try to come up with solutions for industries, especially NTPC. So that is the one which has largely accepted this plan, and many plants have included biomass, and they have experimented completely. Large amount of biomass is utilized, and they try to find it more efficient in utilizing this particular co-firing technology. Okay, NTPC has played a lead role. Anyway, so this is the idea what it is. Fine.
Yes, sir.
So, and important thing is this one, Air Quality Management Committee. So for NCR, it is important that they compulsorily they go with the biomass co-firing. Okay, they have compelled it to do so. Okay, now the last one we will have this Wildlife Protection Act, which has been amended. Okay, so you know the previous act was having 6 schedules. Okay, now we have rationalized it into 4. So why we did it? Because of the CITES convention. So we need to have synchronization between the CITES convention and the wildlife protection. So we tried to do match it. Okay, synchronize it. So under that we have 4. Schedule 1, which has the highest level of protection, and Schedule 2, which has a lesser degree of protection, but it is protected. Okay, Schedule 3, it lists the plant species, and Schedule 4, it will list the specimens under CITES program. Okay, so just to skim through that particular list. Okay, list 1, that is Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, and 4. Generally, okay, don't by heart anything. Just see what are all the things are there. So when you do that, you can easily understand in case of any questions like couple of years before Schedule 5, what is related to, likewise and all we had questions. So that can be addressed. Okay, those type of questions can be addressed. And similarly, those acts which are there for wildlife really like UN Nations Drug and Crime Control Office. So that is also linked with wildlife. Okay, and similarly we have Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. Okay, likewise, what all the various other crimes or legislations with regard to that, or conventions with regard to wildlife, you also look into that. Okay, so this is important, Wildlife Protection Act, which has been amended, and similarly Indian Forest Act. Okay, so Indian Forest Act, there is Forest Conservation Act. So this is important because this is also amended. Okay, Forest Conservation Act, and generally it is a general advice that Indian Forest Act 1927, Indian Forest Conservation Act 86, your Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and the amendment in 2022, and this one, that is Biodiversity Act. Okay, so there are 5 to 6 acts which you have. So try to understand all of them in a comprehensive way, compare them and read. Okay, so go with the objectives what they are, and go with what I mean your objectives, their special provisions. So what they actually look into. So find out the difference. So that is very important, under which the questions can be easily framed. Okay. So anyway, so these are some of the important topics which we need to cover, especially in environment. Okay. So in the next class, we will go with economy. Okay. Possibly we'll start with economy, and then we'll move on to other subjects. Okay. So Monday, we will have economy. Okay. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Monday we'll have economy. Right.